Hi, ladies. I am so excited today to talk about let's see if they're there.
Hi.
Hi, Tracy.
Hey.
How are
So good to be here.
you?
I'm so good. So happy to be part of your world today.
I'm so happy that you're part of our world today.
Well, I love
You,
what I do, and I love what you're bringing to the world. So thank you.
you know what I loved writing today in the Instagram live was vibration therapy for
Hmm.
painful sex. And I was like, who gets to write that as part of
We do.
we do? And then I thought that is so radical that at almost 47 years old, this is what we get to talk about and that it's okay.
It's totally okay, and it's necessary. I'm a med tech engineer, and I never thought I would be doing this, but I've never been happier. I love what I do.
Do you mind if I start with a little bit of a bio, even though, we've
Yeah.
just met? But I have studied you and I'm so excited. And if you don't mind, I also feel like it's sometimes you just receive how amazing you are.
Mm. Well, back at you.
Okay.
Yeah. What can I tell
Well,
you?
no, I'm going to introduce you because
Oh.
this is how good it is. Like, you're that
Oh.
good. So, this is Tracy MacNeal, who's the president and CEO of Materna Medical. She has founded a product that today we're going to talk a lot about called Milli. Milli is in its final stages of clinical trial,
Hmm.
and we're going to discuss the findings of that clinical trial and really, I think, the medical insights that are so fascinating and pertain to pelvic health, painful sex, tightening, those sorts of
Yeah.
things. Tracy is an active participant within the medical device and women's health advocacy and also investment. And she's a chemical engineer, that's pretty ridiculous, just saying. For those of you who don't know about chemical engineering, like I don't, that's pretty radical and fantastic. Um, and the fact that you're pushing this conversation, particularly now in the zeitgeist of this moment, is amazing.
It is a
And
wild time to be alive, that's for sure.
it is a wild time to be alive for women's health,
Mhm.
which is why I was so excited to write vibration therapy in our Instagram live today.
We've come a long
Um,
way.
but you were also the board of directors of Advamed,
AdvaMed, yeah, the Medical Device Trade Association for the US. Yeah,
which is incredible.
thank you.
And she's also a fellow Dookie.
Go Blue. But I live
Go.
in Chapel Hill. I grew up in, I have this divided consciousness of both Tar Heel and Duke, but yeah, I do.
Okay. Well, anyway,
It's all good.
so that is who this amazing woman is, and we are so grateful to have her on today and her advocacy work on behalf of us. And I thought, if you don't mind, we could start honestly at with the basics, which is the pelvic floor, why it
Yeah.
matters, and why is it particularly important for those of us going through perimenopause and menopause.
Yeah, so it's funny. We hosted a bunch of Boys and Girls Club to come to our labs and learn about how to do medical devices. And one of the first questions I asked is, "Do you know what your pelvic floor is?" And they were like, "Nope." And they were probably the average age is probably sort of like 14.
Yeah.
Um, but I feel like it's getting people like you and your leadership. It's so important. I feel like people know a lot more, but it's still something that most people have no idea what it
Yeah.
even is. So it's this basket of muscles that basically holds our whole trunk up, right? So it's at the like if you most people have seen a pelvis,
Yeah.
you have a sense of where your hip bones are. So at the bottom of all that, there's this bowl of muscles, and through this beautiful bowl of muscles goes urethra, vagina, rectum. So it's, sex and peeing and pooping. And so the ability to have control over what is happening there is a big part of people's enjoyment of their life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I think for those of us who have experienced pregnancy,
Hmm.
whether you had a vaginal birth or not,
Yeah.
if you had children with large heads, it's it's one of those things where you become really involved with your pelvic floor, but otherwise you wouldn't know. I don't think it's I think language wise and definition wise, most people don't understand it, but it's particularly for women postpartum or even during pregnancy, that incontinence, both, you know,
Yeah.
urinary and colon,
Yeah.
it's hard. It can become very, very
Yeah.
impactful in one's
Yeah.
life. And I think, something that happens every day at Hot Paws Health is we are constantly talking to women about their symptoms,
Mm.
and that women aren't equivocating and putting together that this is a result of perimenopause or menopause. And I would love you to talk about some of the symptoms of perimenopause and menopause that relate to the pelvic floor and
Yeah.
how they're really, really debilitating for many.
Yeah. So I think that so what happens during menopause, perimenopause and menopause is that we're losing our hormone volume, right? And so one of the ways that can affect people, not everybody, but most of
A
us,
lot.
is that our mucosal tissue gets drier and thinner. And so so sex can become painful when it didn't used to be, and it sometimes is just about dryness. So dryness is one symptom, which if it's just dryness, lubrication should be helpful, and
Yeah.
that should resolve things. But a lot of times it's not just that. So the tissue itself can start to shrink. So that has a variety of names, but basically just the canal just gets smaller.
Yeah.
And so the skin can just be like tight. It's the skin itself that's tight. And then, and both of those things can happen. So if you're using a lubricant, but it still hurts, there's probably something else going on. So you might have you have one of two kinds of tightness, either the skin or the muscles, right? And what is really common, and it's not just for menopausal people, if for whatever reason sex becomes painful for a
Yeah.
period of time, right? If you have a yeast infection and it's gone in 5 days,
Fine.
sex hurts for a while and you get back into it, right?
Right.
But if it goes on for a period of time, what can happen that bowl of muscles is shaped in a circle. And so when you start like tensing up,
Right.
like pain, anxiety, right? So you can have both, then you can have the muscle tightness as well as the skin tightness. And then, so I think that the data shows that many women have a size problem in addition to a dryness problem. And that is very common in menopause, but not
Interesting.
commonly discussed.
And then that wincing, that recoiling, or like
Like bracing
even up here
yourself.
where
Yeah.
you're starting to pull back, which then doesn't help. One of our medical advisors, Dr. Tanya Goodrich, she talks about the warm up and the importance of the warm up, and a lot of it is up here. But if
Yeah.
that physical part isn't cooperating, then the pleasure is gone oftentimes, and
Yeah.
and then when the pleasure is gone, mentally you retract as well, right?
Yeah, for
And so
sure.
it,
For sure. And, maybe just one of the things that really, as I've learned more and more about this condition and the people that live with it, and why I'm so grateful for the opportunity to talk with you about it, is that our research shows that most people who have this condition of the tightness,
yeah,
they think they are the only ones. They
right,
think there's something wrong
wrong
with
with them.
them,
Yeah,
right? Because we don't talk about it enough as a culture. We're super lucky to have raised the millions and millions of dollars from investors to run clinical research and get the data to talk about it, right? And so that's why I'm so excited to be able to lead this company. It's absolutely in service, right? So, I mean, it breaks my heart that women would have this experience, and then also most of them, in my experience with our research, most of them are also thinking that they're bad or wrong, or they're ashamed about it, or that like, why does everybody else have such an easy time and I don't? When actually not everybody's having an easy time about it, but we're just not talking about it enough,
yeah.
right? And it's
Well,
very treatable.
and I think to that end, sex and that notion of pleasure, when it's associated with deep pain,
Mhm.
physical, then emotional, it's hard because you're at this frontier of your life where you've gone through your awkward teens and you experimented in your 20s and
Right.
babies and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, no, I'm ready. Like, I'm ready to have a good time.
Like this should
And
be
yeah,
my
like,
arrival, right?
yeah, right on Chaka Khan. And, you know, we had a conversation last week with Dr. Juliana Hauser, and she has this quote that I just love, which is your sexual identity is this final frontier of understanding self, of self-evaluation. And it's so beautiful.
That is
And she's
beautiful.
so correct that you,
Yes.
once you understand this being of sexuality, it is so impactful in this final kind of chapter in many ways. But then to meet that with some, you know, barrier is really challenging, I think, for a lot of women. And so I had never, I mean, again, my journey is continuing and every day I'm learning something. So I feel so grateful. But I think what will be fantastic is for you to share vibration therapy.
Yeah.
What is it? How does it work? And then how can women begin to understand what symptoms it can help them alleviate?
Yeah. Okay. Oh, so good. Pushing off of something really important that you said, I think I love this idea of arriving sexually because I think it is, and it's because the idea of vibrational therapy is not complicated.
Right.
But what I have found, the complicated part about it is the degree to which women are able to know what they want, ask for what they want, and then be vulnerable to receive it.
Yeah.
Right? Like we have a lot of layers on us in society to not do any of those things, right? And so, you know, I want all of us out there to ask for what you want. But vibration therapy, it's been documented for decades that it increases blood flow. By vibrating an area, because you can do it on your neck, right? I mean, you get this when you go to the physical therapist or the chiropractor or the massage therapist, it brings blood flow to the area. And then around mucosal tissues, it also increases natural lubrication and it can desensitize local nerve pain. And so just shaking things up, it's like your nervous system kind of loses track of whatever it was thinking.
So
Kind of like that's the way I think about it. Does that sound crazy?
no, I think that it's so, I mean, everybody's doing these vibration pads or, I mean, I haven't done it yet. I mean, it's just interesting that movement stimulates and can help then foster that part of your body. I mean, again, I think about Dr. Tanya Goodrich, and she's like, it should be this supple, beautiful, lush situation. And that if it's not, it's going to be painful. You have to address this in a multitude of ways, whether it's like to your point, if it's lube, if it's, localized vaginal estrogen, and a combination of making sure that muscle is getting, activated.
Time, definitely. Like, so vibration therapy is also great as foreplay, right? I mean, and I found that, when I want to take a note now to talk about the partner, right? And because the partner is sometimes people need a partnerectomy, but most of the time, the partner is very in line with being helpful, but pushing is very counterproductive. So I think that's another place where vibration therapy can be helpful. Like if we just need to slow down and let the cathedral open on her own, right? So allow things to happen, right? Like, so vibration therapy, just even getting a vibrator close to the vulva and like allowing things to just sort of relax and, calm down.
Yeah,
helpful.
That's amazing. Okay, let's talk about Milli, because this is your baby. She is amazing. Tell us what Milli is, how she came to be as this thing, and what she does.
Yeah. So in full disclosure, I didn't think of any of this. I'm the second CEO of Materna, and I took over from the founder who was the creator of all of this, and he's an incredible guy. All these ideas came through Stanford Biodesign, which starts with clinically unmet needs, rather than like creating a widget and then go try to find a problem to solve with it, right? So it started with clinically unmet needs, and so what this clinically unmet need was the fact that what ACOG, the American College of Obstetrician and Gynecologists, estimate up to 17% of American women have vaginismus, which is this chronically tight pelvic floor. That's a lot of women. That's millions and millions of women. And so the standard of care, really, I had never heard of this, but so I was kind of shocked. It's we lovingly call it the bag of dildos.
Oh my God. I love this that you are doing a show and tell with a bag of dildos. This is good.
Yeah, it comes in a cute little bag. They come in all different colors, but the basic concept is that you start with like small sizes and you try to get to big sizes, but
Right.
you got to like jam different sizes in, and so as a med tech engineer, and thank you so much for the very, very
It's
kind introduction, but as a med tech engineer, I had never heard of vaginismus when I met the company, and I was utterly shocked that that would be the idea that the healthcare industry would offer people who have pain and anxiety about wanted penetration, whether it's a tampon or a partner or
right.
sex toys or whatever you want to be penetrated with, and you have pain and anxiety about it. That's about the scariest thing I could think of. It's like so upsetting. I don't even have vaginismus, and I thought it was like very upsetting. So Milli looks like this. So it comes in a discrete case. It's got a little USB charger, and she starts out this size, so about the size of your pinky. And because she goes very slowly, we've developed what we call demo cards. So
Oh, that's amazing. Yep.
right. So Milli grows inside the anatomy 1 millimeter at a time at the patient's control. So a millimeter, that's like 2 human hairs. It's really, really slow, really subtle. And so there's 25 steps between, and you don't have to keep taking it out. But like the insertion is the worst part, right? So we're having to reinsert different sizes, and then there's bigger jumps between sizes. So it's a really simple concept, and it has two vibration, like low and high. And so, you get vibration therapy while you're also, expanding inside the anatomy 1 millimeter at a time. That's really all what it does.
Amazing. That I did not realize that the percentage was that high.
The what?
That the percentage was that high of women.
So many people.
That's
yeah.
Yeah.
So
and
many
I want to
people.
say that ED is 18%.
I mean, the numbers are all over the place, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know.
Yeah,
but for sure, ED is better funded. For sure, it's better funded.
I don't know what you're talking about. But you did get incredible funding for a clinical trial, which for those of you who don't know how hard it is to launch a clinical trial, to implement a clinical trial, the phases of a clinical trial, dealing with all of the humans and all of the scientists and all of the data, it is unbelievable. And so hats off to you and your team for doing that. But tell us about this clinical trial and why it matters, and then what findings and learnings you've ascertained.
Well, thank you for all that. I have the most incredible team. So shout out to all my team. They did the things. So we have run a study called POM-POM. So prospective on-market patient outcomes for Milli. I did not name it. One of my awesome teammates did, right? The POM-POM study. And so what it is doing, and it was actually a population of folks that have probably the hardest time. They are completely unable to get anything in.
Okay.
So I just want to say for everybody, like vaginismus is definitely a range, right? So some people can have sex, but it really hurts. Right. And like we've heard from our folks, like the people we've done research with, that it can be like a chore. Like they want to have sex with their partners, but it hurts so much that it's really like they dread it.
Yeah.
But they can make it happen. And then there's this like all the way to the other end of the spectrum where like haven't been able to get a tampon in since they were girls.
Yeah.
And it can happen at any time in your life. It could be like endometriosis or fibroids, but it's very common in menopause.
Yeah.
And so we did not make a distinction about what your primary condition was, like if it's caused by endometriosis or menopause or whatever, or sexual assault. There's a lot of reasons sex can hurt women. But if it goes on for this period of time, then you've got this size problem too. So we didn't distinguish about that. It was on a validated scale of what was possible for you. And so within 90 days, over 2/3 said that intercourse was more comfortable.
Yeah,
and over half said that they had noticeably less anxiety during sex. And I think that really what we found is that that's what it is about for these patients, is that these consumers, these human beings, is that they just want to have a normal sex life, whatever normal
Yeah.
means to them, and not have it hurt. And so
Yeah.
pain and anxiety reductions are really what it's all about.
I think it's so interesting, the measurement. Again, I love clinical trials because they're so nerdy and so data
Yeah,
driven.
you
But
do. They're very particular, aren't they?
it's so fun. But I think that that notion of reduction of X includes anxiety. And I think that, and again, we talk about this all the time, which is if all these men in this country and all over the world are given ED medication to solve that, but we aren't fixing women,
Right,
where are you going to put it? But
right.
in addition, I mean,
Where are
obviously,
you
you do whatever you want,
going to
but
put
put
it?
it where you want it. But so much of it is mental.
It is
Connection is mental. Sexuality can be, it's so much about your brain. Where does orgasm begin? Right? Like,
definitely the brain, right? Yeah.
and so I think that you are, when you're asking the question about how she feels, not just physically, but also emotionally, that is so much, that's like 50, it's two sides of a coin. That's so important as she
Yeah,
build back that connection to the physical part.
100%. And I love that you get the nerdy science part. I mean, because I think that it's important to say that pain and anxiety have validated scales in
Yeah.
healthcare. Like, we know how to measure that quantitatively, and those we didn't create that. Materna did not create that, so we just use those scales. But I think that everything you said I agree with. And what we also know is that these folks have been suffering for years.
Yeah.
So to be able to get this in 90 days is, I just want to say, it is a treatable condition. You do not have to live with it. And that much of the time of those years that they were suffering, they were being told it was all in their heads,
Yeah.
right? And so I feel like I like to use the language around mind-body connection. Your mind and your body, right, have to go together, and sex is very mental for sure,
Yeah.
and emotional, right? And it's just this funny sort of slippery slope. It is all in our heads,
And
and
yet
it
it's
is not.
physical. Yeah.
You know?
No, and I think that giving her back that confidence and pleasure and connection to self is so beautiful. So thank you for doing this.
Oh,
It's amazing. How can
thank you.
women find Milli?
They can find Millie at
Mhm.
hellomilli.com. Hello, Milli. And we're connected with many clinicians. They're pelvic floor physical therapists. Millie is a covered benefit for veterans, so all the veterans out there, it is free for you. So go to your VA and ask for it.
That's amazing.
Um, what else? Those are the best places probably, but we do get a lot of people coming to us, a lot of doctors actually reaching out to us to find out about more of it, because their patients go and ask their doctors about Millie. So, your doctor may not have heard of vaginismus. They maybe didn't teach it in
Yeah.
medical school, depending on when they went. And so you going and asking the question, I mean, one of the things we do with our doctors is we say, do you ask if people are having sex, and does it hurt? And many of them don't,
Yeah.
right? These are OBGYNs. My OBGYN didn't ask
Right.
me. I asked her about it. I was like, why didn't you check in on this? And she was like, oh, I don't I don't have time. I was like, oh, interesting.
Yeah. And we get that. I mean, I think whether it's painful sex or any number of symptoms within perimenopause and menopause, that your OBGYN or whatever practitioner that you are going to oftentimes just hasn't been trained in it.
Mhm.
And to Tracy's point, advocate for self and walk in the same way. I feel like that during pregnancy we are given tools and language and benchmarks and milestones and these very clear moments in first trimester, second trimester, third trimester. Like, I'm going to go in and I want to talk about it and I want to understand it. And I think that menopause and perimenopause, just it will happen, but this is one of those moments where if this is something that you are suffering from, you don't need to. And there are treatments like Milli out there, and you can get back to your most beautiful self.
Most beautiful self. And I got to say, you know, the work that you're doing is so important that, and I can't believe how much things have changed in the years since I took over Materna. Nobody knew what the pelvic floor was, and now
No.
it is a common topic. And so we are making a difference.
Yeah, it is
That's right.
absolutely one of the reasons why on our medical advisory board we have a doctor of public health, because it matters and it is
It does.
part of a really impactful symptom, and that women can feel themselves in. So
Yeah.
we are going to put
Awesome.
all of this into our wrap up. You are amazing. Thank you for everything you're doing. Thank your team.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's the clinical trial or getting commercialization off the ground, it is really hard. So
Thank you.
please
I
know that,
appreciate that you know
no,
that.
it's so hard, and I think that the education part is a really big part of it. That even understanding what the pelvic floor is part of that education process, and the advocacy work that you're doing. We are totally in lockstep. So thank
Oof,
you.
love it. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.